So if you're somebody who's deciding between the AirPods Pro 3 and the AirPods Max, this video is for you. I've spent a lot of time over the past few weeks using both devices, listening to lots of different genres of music, and testing out the noise cancellation on both headphones. So in this video, I'm going to be covering some of the key differences that you should be aware of before making a buying decision. Now, as a disclaimer, I'm by no means an audiophile. I'm just a regular consumer who appreciates good music. So if you are an audiophile, this video might not be for you. So of course, the biggest difference you'll notice between these two headphones is the price tag. The AirPods Pro 3 retail for around $249 on Apple's website, whereas the AirPods Max are still going for $549. So that's over double the price. And for some people, that alone might be the deciding factor. However, you may be able to find the AirPods Max on discount at some places, especially with Black Friday around the corner. And in that instance, the first thing you'll want to consider is the form factor. So the AirPods Pro 3 take the form of earbuds that slot very easily into your ears and the small charging case that comes with them. And they're generally quite unobtrusive and convenient to use. Meanwhile, the AirPods Max are much more of a behemoth and fit into the smart case, which places them into a lower power state. You also get more color options with the AirPods Max, whereas the AirPods Pro only come in white, and with their premium looking design, the Max definitely feels like more of a fashion statement when you're walking outside, which to some people might be a bad thing. You may not want to be drawing that kind of attention to yourself when you're out and about in public. The AirPods Max are also significantly heavier, weighing around 385 grams, which in my experience has a very big impact on its comfort. Like I said before, earbuds are generally just a lot lighter and feel like less of a chore to throw in, whereas with the AirPods Max, I often find that I'm having to force myself to use them just so that I don't feel like I wasted my money on them. For me personally, the biggest barrier is the fact that I get really bad headphone hair when using the Max. So these are very much a pair of headphones that I'll only use when I'm indoors, and I know I'm not going to be going out all day. I find wearing the AirPods Max also restricts my range of motion in my head as well. Because of how heavy they are, I often feel quite conscious moving my head around with them, almost as if I'm worried that they're going to slip off my head. So the only times I'll use these headphones are when I'm sat with them in one space. For example, if I'm watching a movie or working at my desk. Whereas if I'm doing chores around the house or heading outside, which tends to be 99% of my use case, the pros are the ones that I'll use. The one thing that the AirPods Max do have going for them is that they do feel like more of a serious device. I don't know if it's down to the design or the way that Apple have marketed them, but I find anytime I really want to lock in and be productive for around 60 to 90 minutes, there's something about placing the AirPods Max over my ears that seems to transport me into that productive zone. It's almost become like a deep work ritual for me. However, if comfort and convenience are things that you value, the AirPods Pro 3 are definitely the way to go. I do find that when using earbuds, my ears do begin to fatigue after a few hours of use, especially when I'm doing this multiple days in a row. And with the new ear tip design of the AirPods Pro 3, some users have reported them being quite uncomfortable in their ears. Personally, it's not too much of an issue for me, and when my ears do begin to fatigue, that's usually a house sign that my ears need a bit of a rest. Now with the AirPods Max, because of their weight and the aluminium material that they're built from, after a couple of hours, the pressure from the ear cups often begins to fatigue my ears, and sometimes the entirety of my face. So for 99% of people out there, I have a feeling that the AirPods Pro 3 are going to be the more comfortable option. However, I think that you're going to experience some kind of discomfort with both options regardless. It's just going to be a different type of discomfort. Of course, this is partly just a natural trade-off that you get between earbuds and over-the-ear headphones. And the reason most people usually make this trade-off is because of sound quality. Now, the AirPods Pro have made some serious upgrades when it comes to audio quality in the last few years, to the point where as a normal user, I don't really find myself wishing for better sound quality. However, the Max still has the advantage of having the larger driver, which in my experience creates a wider soundstage when listening to music. With the AirPods Pro 3, you can tell that the sound coming from it feels a bit more concentrated and slightly less cinematic, for lack of a better word. Having said that, both headphones do an excellent job at offering clear bass, whilst possessing a rich sound profile that's able to separate instruments from vocals extremely well. Ultimately, I think the extent to which you care about this is going to boil down to whether you're a maximizer or a satisficer. For me personally, once my headphones reach a certain level of audio quality, I begin to care less and less about audio upgrades and more about other features like the level of comfort or how easy they are to use. However, if you're somebody who only cares about sound quality and nothing else, the AirPods Max are still the champions when it comes to sound. And I'd say they're great for those dedicated listening sessions for people who are really into their music. Very quickly, I also want to thank today's channel partner Banks for sponsoring this video. So Banks make a number of premium accessories that fit perfectly into the Apple ecosystem, like their 10,000 mAh magnetic wireless power bank, which I'll often use to charge my iPhone and even my AirPods Pro 3 via its MagSafe functionality. Their Armago cases are also made from a stunning Kevlar material, offering superior strength along with a slim and elegant design, featuring dedicated buttons for the iPhone's camera control and action buttons, which feels super satisfying to click on. However, probably my favourite accessory is their Armor Pop phone grip and stand, which slips onto the back of your phone and can be used as a handle to provide extra grip or security, and even to prop up your phone both vertically and horizontally as a stand for when you're consuming content at the table. I'll leave a link to all of these products in the description below, along with an exclusive 15% discount that Banks have provided for you guys. Thanks to Banks for sponsoring today's video. When it comes to noise cancellation, again, this is an area where the AirPods Max dominates, albeit only by a small margin. Because of the way the Max covers your entire ear, it provides an extra layer of protection from background sounds. This comes in especially handy if I'm walking outside in the wind. The AirPods Max offers a much better listening experience during situations like this, allowing me to enjoy my music at lower volumes. Having said that, when indoors, the noise cancellation on the AirPods Pro 3 is also really good. In fact, I was on a flight from Alicante a few weeks ago. A fairly short flight, it was only 3 hours from Spain. However, I remember I was trying to watch The Godfather 3 on the plane, and I had my AirPods Max on because those are the headphones that I normally wear when traveling. However, about an hour into the journey, I remember my face just became so fatigued from wearing the Max that I eventually had to take them off and replace them with the Pro 3s instead. And overall, the experience was much better on the Pros thanks to the better comfort. I did notice a small hit to the noise cancellation. I could feel that the AC in the plane felt a bit louder compared to the Max. However, the difference wasn't so large that I felt like I was losing out by using the Pros. The difference in the ANC between these two devices is only really something that I notice when testing them side by side. If I'm working out at the gym where there's loud music playing in the background, I find both headphones do a great job at cancelling out the sound of powerlifters screaming. Speaking of the gym, one of my biggest use cases for wireless headphones is working out with them. Generally, I do see a lot of people wearing the AirPods Max to the gym. Now, technically, the AirPods Max are neither water resistant or waterproof, so they don't carry any official IP rating, whereas the AirPods Pro 3 are rated as being IP57 resistant, which means the earbuds can in theory withstand immersion in fresh water up to 1 meter for up to 30 minutes. So if you're working out at the gym and you're breaking a few sweats, which you should be if you're training hard enough, the AirPods Pro 3 are officially going to be the ones to go for. Having said that, I have used my AirPods Max in the gym before, and even outdoors when it's raining, and they're still functioning just fine, which I definitely don't recommend you guys go out and do. However, I know that there are some of you guys who are going to do it anyway, so I may as well tell you that you should be fine. Another thing to note as well is that the AirPods Max are using the much older H1 chip versus the H2 chip in the AirPods Pro 3. For context, the H1 chip was released all the way back in 2019, so that's tech that's over 6 years old. Now, when it comes to audio quality and ANC, I don't think this makes the biggest difference because the sound quality and noise cancellation on the Max has held up pretty well over the last 6 years. What you are missing out on, however, are some of the new software features that Apple have been pushing out onto the AirPods Pro. So things like adaptive transparency, which is a feature that I use a lot. Similarly, there's no precision tracking available on the AirPods Max, just the standard Find My support. There's also no heart rate tracking or live translation support, although to be fair, those are slightly niche features. However, something that most people are going to care about is the battery. So the AirPods Max are rated for up to 20 hours of listening time with ANC enabled, and a quick 5-minute charge through the USB-C port is enough to give you an extra 1.5 hours of listening time. And as soon as you place them into the smart case, or leave them unused for 5 minutes, they'll enter into a low power mode where they can last for multiple days. So this makes the Max great for things like long haul flights, where you may be using your headphones for multiple hours in a row. The AirPods Pro 3, on the other hand, are rated for up to 8 hours of listening using active noise cancellation. And the charging case itself supports up to 24 hours of listening time, with a 5-minute charge adding back around an hour of playback. And in addition to the USB-C port, you can also charge the case using standard wireless charging or MagSafe, or even an Apple Watch charger. Generally, battery isn't something that I'd base a buying decision on, given how similar these two devices are, although the AirPods Max may be better if you're planning to use your headphones for more than 8 hours at a time, which I'm sure is great for your hearing health over the long term. Another benefit of the AirPods Max is that if you want to, you can now use them with a wired connection instead of Bluetooth, whereas the AirPods Pro, of course, don't support that option. Now, if I was going to make a buying recommendation, I'd say go with the AirPods Max. Yes, you are paying more than double the price tag for them, but for that heavy price tag, you're getting a much less comfortable pair of headphones, you're getting marginally better sound quality and noise cancellation, and you're getting state-of-the-art headphone technology, which is over 5 years old, with no support for new software features. I'm obviously being sarcastic here. Go for the AirPods Pro 3. Unless you're able to snatch the AirPods Max for maybe $300, they're really only something that I'd recommend to people who have already paid off their mortgage. And even then, even if both devices were the same price, I'd probably still lean towards the AirPods Pro, simply because of their more comfortable form factor. But yeah, hopefully you found this comparison video helpful. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe for the next one.